Welcome to Series 3 of Sensitive Changemakers, the podcast for ambitious HSPs and introverts. So if you're a sensitive, introverted coach, therapist, creative, or service provider with big dreams, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP and introvert who understands the unique challenges and incredible strengths we bring to the table. In this space, I'm here to help you embrace your sensitivity, release the anxiety and self-doubt that may be holding you back, and build the confidence to create success on your terms. If you're ready to step into your quiet power, align your business with your true self, and live a life of intention, purpose, and authenticity, then this is for you. Let's dive in. Hello, happy Monday everyone. I hope you are well as you listen into this. So this is a topic that is really close to my heart because I think selling, the word sales and selling can have so many connotations, and I know I touched on this last week and I really wanted to dig into it more. It's been on my mind for a while, and one of the reasons that it's an important topic I think for me is because this was the part that I felt really stuck around for a long period of time. So I wanted to come on here and share some of the ideas, share some of the thinking that has supported me and that helps me when I'm working with clients, especially around being highly sensitive and being introverted, because I think there is an extra layer here that we need to kind of dig into a little bit and to talk about more in a really kind of open and honest way. So I'm really hoping this is going to support you in your own business, but also open up some different thoughts or even some different conversations that perhaps you haven't had either with yourself or with other people. So I'm really hoping it's going to be a bit of an eye-opener, this one. So it will be no shocker that the first thing I really want to talk about is the challenges that come along with the idea of selling, sales. I'm just going to bring all of that language into one container here. So selling, sales, all of those different words, salesy, icky, all of those words I'm going to bring into one container here. And I really want to talk about how it is absolutely normal and okay for us to have emotion and experience attached to these words, to how they make us feel. And that might be because of an experience we've had. It might just be, you always think about like icky car salesmen and things like that who are always trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. They're always trying to be dishonest. And that can be just as powerful. So even if we haven't had personal experience of something negative about sales or selling, we often have the connotations of it anyway through media, through stories, through films, TV programs. I mean, I'm thinking of Matilda, if you've ever seen the Roald Dahl Matilda, and the dad in that who's always trying to he pours things into the car engine so that it doesn't sound as rattly, and he takes the speedometer back so that it doesn't look like it's had that many miles, and all of these things to try and pull the wool over people's eyes. So I'm just normalizing that to start off with. I think not only may we have had personal experiences with some of these words or connotations of these words, but also in society and just through stories, etc. We've been exposed to selling and sales being icky and dishonest. So I just want to kind of normalize that to start off with, and bearing in mind that everything we talk about today, you've got the extra layer of being highly sensitive and introverted on top of that, which is, that part of it is where we dig into and we go into more detail about things. So we think about things in more detail. So not only have we experienced these things ourselves or through these stories, but then we're thinking about them on top, because that's what we like to do as being, as sensitive, introverted people. So there's a lot going on there for us. So when we start our business, and most of us do not start our business, especially if we're highly sensitive and introverted, to make sales, even though we still want the money on the other side of it, if that makes sense. But we don't go in thinking, I want to sell. I really want to sell. That's what I want to do with my life. We go on because we want to help people. And we know that we need the money on the other side of that in order for it to be workable, in order for it to work for us. Otherwise, it just becomes a hobby. And then we don't have the time to put into that and therefore we don't have the time to support other people. So it becomes a little bit of a vicious circle. So we do need those sales. We do not need that money on the side, so that on the other side rather, so that we can actually do this in more detail. We can do it more. We can do more good. We can support more people, etc., etc. So there is that kind of strange kind of dichotomy almost, where we don't want to talk about sales, we don't want sales, but also we do want the money on the other side of that so we can continue doing what we love doing. And again, I'm going to normalize that and say, that is completely normal for a lot of us, especially, and we put that layer of highly sensitivity on the top and introverted. We're going to be thinking about that in so much more detail as well. So normalizing all of those different things, and also what can we do about it? Because like I said, in order for us to support more people, in order for us to help people, we need to be in the business full time, or at least for a long period of time, so that we can actually make it work, and we can learn more about ourselves, and therefore we can support more people. And we do that with time, don't we? The more time we have, the better we can get at that. And so having sales, making sales, having money is a necessity. It's part of that cycle. And so the first thing I really want to delve into today is mindset around you in your business. And as always, you always hear me talk about this. I always think it starts with you. The kind of strategies and the kind of work and action that you take sits on top of you and the foundational self-trust that you have in yourself. And I've seen this with myself and with so many different clients as well. We start trying to build strategy, take action when we don't have that foundational self-trust. Now, if you remember for a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about there's a difference between confidence and self-trust. You are not expected, or you don't have to have confidence in yourself and your abilities. You don't have to know that you've got it all figured out and you've got it all worked out. That's not what this is about. It's about having that grounded self-trust that you will work it out, that you actually are realistic and neutral in the fact that you don't know what's coming. It is unknown. You've never been here before. And so therefore you can't have confidence on something that you've never had or that you've never done before, but you can have grounded self-trust. You can believe that you can work it out, that it is all figure-outable, as Mary Forleo says. I think it is her. I think she's the one that's about the figure-outable. Okay, so that's the first thing. And so the first thing I really want to talk to is, what are the challenges, what comes up for you around selling, sales, all of those different words. And there may be a fear of rejection. There may be discomfort of self-promotion and actually putting your words out there and putting yourself out there. And then there's that feeling of feeling salesy or feeling icky. And I want you to just take some time to appreciate that that's what's going on in your head, because so many of us, and again, I've got my hand up here, definitely did this at the start, ignored this part and just thought, okay, well, I just need to do, I just need to act, I just need to go and do this strategy over here and it'll all work itself out. And actually what I needed to do was I needed to be honest with myself that these were the thoughts that were coming up around selling and asking for money and pricing, because all of those things kind of overlap, don't they? And it wasn't that I needed to fix anything. It wasn't that I needed to be fully healed around anything, because I don't think you necessarily do, but I needed to be honest with myself. And I needed to say, do you know what? These are the things that are coming up for me when I'm talking about selling, when I'm talking about increasing my pricing, or when I'm talking about X, Y, and Z around selling. These are the things that are coming up for me. Let's be honest that they're there. Let's just admit that they're there, and that's okay. You know, we all have different baggage come into different things, especially when we have our business. So being really okay with knowing what's coming up for you, I think, is really, really important. And there's lots of different things and tools and techniques then that you can support yourself with once you have the awareness. And I'm saying here being okay with it, because what I don't want you to do or to think is, because you have these thoughts around it, that's somehow making you wrong, or it's somehow making you feel like you're less than. I want you to get to a place where it's okay. Like, let's just be honest that these feelings are there, and that's okay, and that's normal, you know, absolutely normal, because of what we were talking about earlier. Those connotations that we have, those stories that we've been told, those experiences that we've had, it makes absolute sense that when we start talking about selling as an honest, authentic, genuine individual, that feels a bit strange, that feels a bit weird, and that's okay. So really getting to neutral around that and not beating yourself up about it. And then once you've got to that neutral stage, you can start to shift how you see things. And you can start to see selling as serving instead. And I think this is such a beautiful place to step into. It is when you, and this is where that self-grounded trust comes in, when you get to a place where you feel neutral about the stories that are coming up for you, and you can start to shift your mindset into seeing that actually by you being visible, by you selling, by you talking about your products or your services, you are actually in service. You are not pushing, and we'll talk about this later through the strategies and actions, you're not pushing yourself on other people who aren't interested. You're not saying, you're not like a door-to-door salesman who is knocking on every single door and going, buy from me, buy from me. That's not what you're doing here. You are talking to people who have already put their hand up and said, oh, I'm interested in this. I don't know where in that journey I am yet. I might be just in the stage where I'm finding out more about you. I might be at the middly stage where I'm like, well, I know that I'm going to be, you know, looking at this in the near future. Or I might be at this place of, I need this now. I'm not quite sure where I am in that journey, but I'm interested to find out more about you. These are the people that you are talking to. They are, and this is why ideal clients are so important, and understanding your audience and understanding your people. But they are your people. They are the people that you are talking to and connecting with and communicating with. And if you can see that you are in service of these people, you are supporting them in making a step forward, whatever your particular expertise is, whether that's buying a product or investing in a service, you are supporting them in taking a next step forward. And just to take my business, if you like, as a snapshot here so that you can see what I mean, hopefully. I have a very clear ideal client. You know, mine are highly sensitive, introverted entrepreneurs who are very overwhelmed, frustrated with the amount of noise in the online space and want things simplified, but also they want things to work for them. Now, that's really, really specific, I think. However, the amount of people and the amount of clients I have, every single client is different, and every single client comes to me with something different they need support with. And sometimes my step forward for them is helping them to believe in themselves, or my step forward in helping them and to serve them is looking at messaging. It might be my step forward in supporting them is looking at how they can simplify things, how they can break things down so that there's not so much that they feel they have to do all the time. And then those small steps combined lead to them having more clients and having more sales, etc. But the small steps that I'm helping them make forward or helping them forward in might be something really nuanced and detailed that on the outset, when you look at my business, you may think, oh, I didn't know that would be something that was involved in that. Does that make sense? So just taking something that's quite big there and breaking it down into the small little steps. So when you're thinking about your business, flip this around and see it that is what you're doing in support of other people. You are helping them to take that step forward, whether that be with money, if you're supporting people around finances, or whether that's you're supporting people around time and time management, or whether that's supporting people around, you know, food and nutrition and diet. Whatever you're supporting them with, yes, there's a whole picture, but also when you break it down, those little steps forward are really, really important too. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we think that, and I think this comes into selling, which is why I'm bringing it in here. I think sometimes we think that's a huge task that we've got to get our clients to. That's something big that they're going to have to achieve. And we forget that actually it's all about those small steps forward and being in service with those small steps so that you can help them move forward. I hope that kind of makes sense. Let me know if not. But I do think it's really, really important to bring that up there. Okay, so that's my first thing, is first of all getting to neutral around how you feel and what's coming up for you. And then secondly, really starting to see you're in service. You're not pushing, you're not convincing, you're in service. You're supporting people in making that next step. And then over time, those next steps become a huge change for them. Okay, so I hope that makes sense so far. The second mindset shift that I want you to think about here is that you are supporting people in solving their problems. You are not trying to convince them or push them into making a decision that they are not ready to do. And I know that that sometimes comes up in our online space, and this is why I wanted to bring it here as a HSP and introvert. That is not who we are. That is not what we are made to do. We're not convincing, we're not pushing. We are supporting people to solve a problem, whatever that problem is that you feel you're an expert in. Okay, so you can start to rewire your thought patterns, and this is where the thought patterns are so important. So when sorry, I've just had a notice come up from my daughter's school. When you are thinking about, oh, I'm bothering people, I'm pushing people, am I going to be annoying? Am I going to be X, Y, and Z? Whatever comes up for you. First of all, just being aware that those are there, and that's normal. Again, going back to what we were talking about before, just getting that neutrality, and then just recognizing that actually I'm here to offer solution. I'm not here to push people or to convince people. If I didn't say to them, actually, I could help you with this, I can see this, and this being something I can support you with, actually that's being nice. That's being really authentic and genuine. Is if you can see that you can help solve a problem and you're coming from a really authentic, genuine place, that's service. That's not bothering people. That's service. That's saying, I can see this is a really big problem for you. I can see this being an issue. I know I can help in these areas, X, Y, and Z. Would you like to know how I can support you? That's being in service. That's not pushing. Again, just to go back to what we were talking about before, we are not door-to-door salesmen or sales ladies. We are not in the business of doing that. We are talking to people who have already put their hand up and said that they're interested in what we're doing. So we are in service already because we're talking to people who are interested. And then when we can see how we can solve problems and how we can support people, we are then in service. We are then supporting those people and making those steps forward if we actually do say to them, I can help. And I think that's okay. You know, having that language. And one of the things I do work with clients on sometimes is how can we create safety around that? How can we create safety around saying to somebody, I can help. I can help you. Because that in itself can feel different. And I'm hoping that makes sense into the context that we've talked a bit about here when we think about it as being in service. So I just wanted to bring that into it here. And that's why, just hitting slightly on content and messaging here, that's why I think for highly sensitive people and introverts, content, whatever content you have, whether that's blog, whether that's emails, whether that's social media, whatever type of social content you have, it can be so supportive for us because it can do some of that work for us. It can actually talk to how we can help. It can talk to the end result of working with us. It can talk to the transformation. It can talk to the problem, and it can talk to how we break that down and how we support them making those small steps to where they wanted to get. So actually our content, if you look at your content as that, it's supporting you in selling. It's not necessarily a sales process in itself because there is so much more to a sales process, but it is part of it. It's there to support us. So when we do have that conversation with people and they've been reading our content, again, whatever type of content you have, they are going to have a deeper understanding of you. And then you don't have to do all of that. Well, this is what I do and how this is how, and you can actually just focus on them and what they need, and how your services can specifically help them. So I hope that makes sense, how content fits in there as well. Okay, so we've spoken quite a lot about mindset so far, and I do feel, like I said, having that self-grounded trust or that grounded self-trust in ourselves to figure things out is so foundational. And I know I didn't have that for a long time, and I just thought if I just kept doing stuff, if I just kept putting strategies on top of things, then it'd all work out and it'd be fine. And yes, I got limited success with that, but I didn't get the success that I wanted because I didn't have this piece. And actually some of the work for me over definitely for the first couple of years, and it was years in my case, I'm not saying it has to be for everybody, but it definitely was for me, was going back over some of the basics and doing what I've spoken about today. Just admitting that those thoughts were there. Just doing the work on that. And I did do a lot of the activities. If you're interested in some of the more money mindset side of things, Jen Sincero has got a great book out. I think it's called You're a Badass at Making Money. I can't speak today. And it's a really great book because it's broken down into different chapters. You don't have to resonate with every single chapter, but every chapter has a little action at the end. Something that's either a thought or a journal practice or something like that to help you to think about money differently and think about services differently and things like that. So I found that quite a useful tool if anybody wants to use that. The one that I was going to share with you today is just a very quick journal activity where you write down the transformation your products or services support clients with, and just really allowing yourself to accept that. And I say that with love as being a highly sensitive, because I think we're so good at finding the problems, and we're so good at beating ourselves up, and we're so good at thinking that we should be further than we are. And actually some of the work here is, how can I look for how I can help people? How can I look for what I do now and how I support people and what that means to them? Making it less about us and more about the people in front of us. It is about those clients. What does it mean to them that you're working with them? Not what does it mean to you as the business owner, even though I know it would mean so much to you as well. But it's an important mindset shift, because we can then stop getting in our own way, and we can stop having those thought patterns that come up that make us doubt ourselves. So if we make it about them, what would it mean for the client? What would it mean for our audience if I supported them? What would that mean? What would they be able to do as a result? And I would love you to write that down as like a little journal prompt. And if you want to share it with us in the group, please do so, or message me if you don't want to share it publicly. I can't speak today, publicly. But that would just be a wonderful journal prompt, so you can see how you can shift things. Instead of beating yourself up, instead of thinking that you're not able to do this, instead of doubting yourself, instead of thinking that you're bothering people, and instead of thinking that sales is icky and all of these different things, first of all, you can see sales as a whole process. It is not just about that sales call or that conversation you have at the end. It is about your messaging. It is about your content. It is about how you're being visible. It is about how you're showing up. It's all of these different parts, which I personally think can be so permission giving that we then don't have to make sure every single bit is perfect, because we can have imperfect parts in that still work as a whole. And obviously we get better over time, but it just takes the pressure off us when we can see that content is just a part, conversations are just a part, messaging is just a part, connections is just a part, those sales calls are just a part. Everything is a part of the bigger process, and hopefully that supports you in taking some of that pressure off. Okay, I want to get onto some of the strategies, because I realised I've talked quite a lot about mindset, and I do think mindset is a big part of this, a huge part, especially as highly sensitive and introverts. But I do want to talk about creating an aligned selling process for you in terms of strategy. So once you've got that self-belief, how you can actually start building strong strategies on top that are going to work for you. So obviously, as everything, I think in business, but especially for us, this isn't about having a specific script, unfortunately. It's not about having something that is the same for every single person. I think it depends on what you're bringing to your business, like your experiences, your stories, all of those different things. That has a play in this, obviously. And so depending on your own values and priorities as well, it really does have an impact on what the strategy is that you use. But there are certain things that I think can really support you. So I touched on this earlier. Content and messaging is a big part of the sales process, because like I said, it does some of the work for you. It does some of the selling for you, so that you can, and I had this conversation with a client a while back, you can almost use it as a protective mechanism, if you like, to feel safe around being visible and around selling. Using content and messaging can be a great way of stretching your comfort zone, if you like, for another way of saying this. So using your content and messaging in order to sell, in order to get used to the language that you want to use, in order to talk to that transformational progress, etc. That can be your first mini steps, if you like, in stretching your comfort zone. And once you get used to using that in your content and your messaging, you can then get used to using that in the conversations and the connections that you're having. And then that is what supports that sales process in kind of converting audience into clients. So I hope that makes sense. So content and messaging can be a huge part of this. It can really be a supportive mechanism for you to get used to feel safe, and stretching your comfort zone around getting used to selling in a different way to start off with. So written content is a huge part for highly sensitive and introverts. Most highly sensitive and introverts I have worked with like the written content, and that is absolutely fine. It allows us to go into more depth, it allows us to think things through, it allows us to redraft, etc. The downside of this is sometimes we can draft too much and then doubt ourselves that way. So we do need to get that kind of balance correct. And that's why working with a coach is really supportive, because then you're not overworking the same piece of content over and over again, expecting it to be perfect. You can actually just start releasing content and building up your confidence and your trust over time. But written content is huge. And if you do like writing in more content, then blogs and emails are going to be more of your thing. If you like to have more of a impact in terms of shorter content, so things like social media content and things like that, then you can focus on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook obviously allows you to write more, Instagram is shorter, things like Twitter or X is even shorter. So you really do want to think about, number one, where are your ideal clients going to be? And number two, what is the platform that allows you to express yourself in the best way that you know how to as a highly sensitive and introvert? And like I said, written content is a big one for us. So do think about that, and do think about it as a way to stretch your comfort zone around selling, because it is a really big part of the sales process and can really help you in just getting the language, using the language. And when I'm talking about language here, I'm talking about that for a better word, that self-promotion. You know, because we have to have our own backs in business, because nobody else is going to do that for us, unfortunately. And so we do need to get used to kind of promoting ourselves and saying, we're good at this. This is what I can help with. And that's why I was saying earlier about that journal prompt of what does it mean for your prospective client if they had your help? That's a really important thing to consider. And then we can build on that through our content and our messaging, and that helps us then to sell in that sales process. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, the next thing is on top of this, so you've got your content and your messaging, and then on top of that, you've got your difference between cold leads, warm leads. So your cold leads are going to be people that are brand new to you, that don't know you, that may have just come into your world, if you like. And they are going to need nurturing. They are going to need to know more about you. Now, again, not to overcomplicate this, because I think as highly sensitives and introverts, we can go down a huge rabbit hole of, oh my God, I've got to talk to every single person. You don't have to do that. Again, your content and messaging, that is what your content and messaging for. You can use that as a nurture. You can use it to get to know people or to talk to them, either on one-to-many, so emails and content is a great example of that, or one-to-one, which is more like your direct messaging or your emails if you were having a one-to-one email. So there's lots of ways to nurture your audience. Another great way of nurturing your audience is a lead magnet of some description. So all of these ways are still part of your sales process. You are still selling, but you're not doing the hard sell, if that makes sense. You're not saying, buy from me now. You're seeing that it's all a journey, that your clients are going on a journey with you, and that they all come in at different stages. And like I said, some of them are going to be cold audience. They're going to be those cold leads who don't know you, who some of them are going to need a little bit more time to get to know you. Some of them will come in going, right, I know that I need X, Y, and Z. I'm interested in you. I want to know more about you. Let me watch you. Let me listen to you. Let me read your stuff for a little bit. And they may jump on a call or convert, if you like, much more quickly than somebody else. You know, every single person is going to be different. But if you can start to see that all of these pieces are how you sell. Okay, so I'm hoping I'm normalizing selling. I'm going to say selling and sales as much as I possibly can. So you can start to, first of all, think about what that conjures up for you, but also normalize that the whole process is part of selling. So you've got your cold leads. You've then got your warm leads, which, as hopefully you know, are the people that know you better. They are the people that watch your stories. They are the people that like your message, your content, or read your blogs, or, you know, they've been with you and they understand you. And they're going to need something different. They're going to need, and this is where I find highly sensitive and introverts back away. So instead of leaning in to our warm leads, we back away and we think, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to be a nuisance, etc. But these are our warm leads, and I'm going to emphasize, I'm going to come back to what I said before. These are not only people who have put their hand up and said, oh, hi, I like what you're doing, like a cold lead would be. These are warm leads. These are people that have said, I like what you're doing, and I've read this, and I've followed you, and I look at your stories. Do you see what I mean? There's so much more investment in there. And remember, human beings are rubbish at making decisions. I know that I'm one of the worst people on the planet for making decisions for the majority of the time in my life. But if I'm given a choice between this or that, that's a much easier decision for me to make. Rather than, I'll give you an example, this room, it could be painted any colour. Great. That's a huge decision where I could go down a rabbit hole of so many different colours. Whereas actually what I ended up doing was having a conversation with my husband, going, right, let's get it down to a couple of colours. And then I literally got it down to two, and I've got them on the wall there, blue or green. It was a light blue or a light green, and we went with light green. And it was so much easier to make because I had two decisions rather than a multiple decision. Okay, hope that makes sense. And if we apply that to this, our warm leads, those people that have known us, who have been following us, who are on our email list, who are reading our emails, they are the people that need this decision, okay? They are the people that we can lean into. We don't have to lean back. This is where what we were talking about before, that mindset around what would it mean for this person if I helped them? This is where that mindset is going to come in. So when you're looking at your warm leads, what I would love for you to do is look at your emails. Are there people that are opening every single email? If so, can you reach out to them individually and have a conversation with them? You don't have to sell straight away or do a hard sell, but just get in touch with them and say, I really appreciate that you've been opening every single one of my emails. I would love to know what it is that you've enjoyed reading. What is it that's been resonating with you? And have a human conversation with somebody, because they've already been following you for so long. So again, we're talking about warm leads here. We're talking about people that have said yes over and over again. Okay, so they are interested in you, they are following you, they are reading, they are watching, etc. Okay, so that's the first thing you can do. Another thing, if it's content like a video, or if it's social media content, or if it's a blog post, and again, it's the same person that may be commenting, or the same person that is reaching out, or the same person that is liking things, again, just a very quick reach out. And again, this is where we're leaning in. This is where we're going first. These are our warm leads. We are not cold, door-to-door cold salesmen, okay, or sales ladies, if I keep saying. We are people who are talking to individuals who have already said yes multiple times. And I keep coming back to that because this is where we are in service. This is where we can support these people. Okay, so actually starting to lean in, starting to go first with people who have said yes multiple times in different ways, and actually starting to have a deeper connection with that person so that you can start to put yourself into that either or decision. You could work with me or you could not work with me, but you're putting that decision to them rather than expecting them to make that decision from multiple different coaches or service providers or product-based companies, whatever your business is, you're giving them an easier decision to make. And yes, the downside of that is it might be a no, but that you've still supported them in making a decision, and you now know that that's where that relationship stands. And it doesn't mean, for most people I've worked with, it doesn't mean it's a no forever. It just means it's a no right now, and that's okay. And then this is where follow-up comes up. Follow-up is so important. Now, I have a spreadsheet, again, just see if this helps. If it doesn't, don't use it. But I have a spreadsheet of people that I've spoken to, like literally one-on-one. So it might have been a free call I've had with them. It mostly is a free call that I've had, because I do love my free calls, but you may not have that in your business. It may be a one-on-one email that you've had, or a DM message that you've had with people, and I may have supported them. I may have given them some ideas or some support on how to, normally around mindset or strategy, something on that front on their business, and then I will say that to them, do you mind if I check in with you in a month or 2 months time just to see how things are going? And most of them love that, because it shows that you are caring. It shows that you actually do care about them. Again, you're not bothering them. You are doing them a service. You're checking in with them because you care. So I want to shift how you see this in terms of follow-up, in terms of having that follow-up conversation with people. Hope that makes sense. So follow-up is super, super important. And again, in a way that feels really good. So you are following up on those people that have said yes. And they've probably said yes multiple times. And you are saying to them, I would love you to help you with this. And maybe you've given them a free resource. It might have been your lead magnet. It might have been a free call. It might have been a blog that you pointed them to, that you wanted them to read, that you thought was going to really help them. And then you follow up with that. How did that go? And again, as a human being having a human conversation, there's no fancy language or sales techniques or any scripts here. It's one human being to one other checking in. How did that go? I know I sent you, or I helped you out with X, Y, and Z. I'd love to know how that's going for you. And again, that's how we start to lean in. So I hope that kind of makes sense, taking it all the way from our mindset to our cold audience through to our warm audience. And like I said, this is where I feel that highly sensitive and introverts, this is where we get in our own way. We make it about ourselves. And that's not to make us wrong. It's just, I think, how our mind works. And it comes from a really good place. We don't want to bother people. We don't want to annoy people. But if we've got warm audience, if we've got warm leads who are saying yes to us over and over again in different ways, that's an opportunity to lean in. That's an opportunity to go first. And the downside of that is there may be a no at the end of it. But I really want you to see that as that's still a supportive message for us, because it might be a no right now rather than no, not ever. That's the first thing to remember. And also it still gives us feedback, because they will be telling us something that we can then speak to in our content. It might be, I haven't got the resources at the moment. I haven't got the money at the moment. Great. That's okay. That's great information to know, because then I can break that down. What does that look like? What's going on for you? And then I can bring that into, maybe not ever talking about that specific person, but the ideas behind that in content. So there's always going to be a supportive side to somebody saying no, even if it's a no forever or a no, just a no right now. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if not. I'm just going to check to see if there's any comments. I think we're good. Yeah, awesome. Did I want to say anything else? Talked about follow-ups. Yeah, the last thing I do want to just talk about this. I know we're going a little bit later than I normally do, but I do think this is important. And this is just around your energy around selling. So I know I've said quite a lot here, and some of it is leaning into things that maybe you haven't done before. So I just want to just quickly just talk over boundaries and just making sure, remember, as highly sensitive people and introverts, our energy levels are really, really important. And I know we've probably been taught through society and through our upbringing probably that we just got to push through. And I just want to say, yes, there's absolutely a time and a place to take action and to lean in. like we were talking about. But we also have to have that balance of remembering that we can't constantly lean in and do and act, because we're going to burn ourselves out and be completely overwhelmed. So just making sure that you've got some boundaries in place. And the boundaries, you know that I always talk about these gentle boundaries. They don't need to be cemented in stone. They don't need to be ones that you're never ever going to shift. But maybe having some gentle boundaries around, okay, I'm going to reach out or do some follow-ups at a specific time a week. I'm not going to expect myself to do it every single day, or it might just be a couple of times a week. So just making sure in terms of your time and your energy, just wanted to hit on that a little bit, because I don't want you to hear this conversation and think that I'm asking you to do this every single day and lean in and go and find all the work and do. I want you to have that balance and to remember your boundaries and to remember your energy levels as well. And the last thing I will say in terms of energy as well, just on the back of this, is it's really supportive, and I found this really supportive over the years. Before you do a follow-up, before you get on a call, before you lean in, something that is maybe quite foreign to you, that you haven't been used to doing, and you're really stretching your comfort zone around it, just take a few minutes before you do that action to ground yourself in you and to remember why you're doing that. Now, I do it with a sort of a tap here on my chest and some deep breaths and just a few kind of affirmations that mean something to me. Yours are going to be different, but I just kind of take that moment and just remember, you know, I am supporting people here. I'm helping them to move forward. It's okay if they say no. Just a few of those things just to kind of get me grounded in feeling neutral about it, so that I can go into whatever that leaning in action is and know that I can stay neutral in that it's okay if they have questions, absolutely fine. If they say no, absolutely fine. It just allows me to get into that neutral territory, which then supports my energy level, so I'm not doing this and having a complete kind of exhausted meltdown on the other side of things where I'm just like, oh, that was exhausting. It's much more okay. I feel good going into this. I know that I'm feeling neutral and grounded around it, and now I'm prepared for whatever that conversation is. And then I can be present for the other person, and again, I can take myself out of the picture a little bit more, because it's not about me, it's about them. So I hope that really helps there. And I think I've spoken about most other things. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so we've gone a little bit longer today, but I hope it's been really supportive and you can see how this works together. If you would love more support on this, if you're listening to it and going, actually, I get what Kate's saying, but I need some more support on seeing where I can lean in, where my warm leads are, how do I find out who my warm leads are, how do I get more cold audience in, all of these different questions around selling and the sales process, then I do have an intensive, and it is all to do with selling without the hustle. So this is a 90-minute intensive where it's time for you. It's time for you to tell me about your business, to break it down so that we can get really clear on your whole sales process. And like I said, where we've got that point where we can lean in a little bit more, and also that time where we can simplify things and we can look at how we can break things down so that you're not trying to do all of the different things. So that's £100 at the moment, and like I said, that's a 90-minute intensive, so it's one of my lower priced options. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put the link below in the comments. If you've got any questions about it or want more information, just let me know. But I just thought it'd be a really good intensive on the back of this particular masterclass, because it kind of links in really, really well together. Anyway, I hope that all makes sense. If you've got any questions, please do reach out if there's anything you need further clarification on, because I'm not having a one-on-one conversation. It's obviously just coming straight out of my head. And the teacher part of me just wants to make sure that it's all landed really well. So if you do have any questions, please do reach out. I'm sending you so much love, guys. Have a fantastic week, and I'll be back next week when in the masterclass. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.